Whether you're going on a 2-week cruise around the Bahamas or just spending 2 weeks on the English Riviera, what you don't want is to be worrying about your aquarium whilst you're chilling on your sunbed. So today we're going to take a look at what preparations needed before you go away so you can enjoy that beer in the sun. Slight change of venue this week, guys. Filming in front of my angelfish aquarium today. This is due to the amount of Crebensis babies that I have currently in the rainbow fish aquarium. The parents are doing a fantastic job of protecting those babies, but what they don't need is me sat in front of the aquarium attracting every fish in the tank because they think they're being fed. So I thought we'd do a nice video in front of the angelfish aquarium instead today. So when you're going on holiday, you don't want to be sat on your sunbed worrying about your aquarium. So there's a few little things that you need to put into place before you go away. Good bit of preparation to be done weeks, if not months, before you actually go on your vacation. The main thing any aquarist will worry about before and whilst is on holiday is the feeding of your fish. So this can be done in 4 different ways. To start off with, we have the generic holiday food block, which dissolves once put into the aquarium. It will dissolve over a space of a week to 2 weeks and release food particles into the water column for the fish to feed on. The only problem with these is they don't react the same in all water conditions. Soft water conditions, a food block may dissolve a lot faster. Harder water conditions, then it's been known that food blocks don't dissolve at all. So a good few weeks, if not months before you go on holiday, it's worth buying a holiday block and placing it in your aquarium and watching how that dissolves over the weeks. And obviously not feeding whilst you're doing this test, but it's good to know this in advance, as then you can be sat on holiday totally stress-free, knowing that your fish are getting a supply of food. A good way of feeding your fish whilst you're on vacation is an auto feeder. Now, an auto feeder is an electronic device that can be fitted to the top of your aquarium. They either have a large chamber or individual chambers in which you can place dried food. You can then set the auto feeder to feed your aquarium when desired and the amount that you desire. Now, what you do have to take into account with an auto feeder is the food that you place into the chambers. You're not going to put frozen live foods in there, because once they've defrosted, they're just going to make one hell of a mess. And also, you need to be careful of what dried foods you're going to be putting in there. You don't want to be putting in a flake food, because like anything at the top of an aquarium, it's going to be subjected to moisture. So if you put a flake food in your auto feeder, that's going to absorb moisture, and before you know it, your auto feeder will become clogged and it won't be feeding your fish whilst you're away on holiday. So a good quality pellet like the Fluval Bug Bites or the Nova Tabs or something like that would be better. But again, you do need to take care and look weeks, if not months in advance, how these pellets react to moisture. If you're away for 2 weeks, you don't want the pellets that you've put in there to absorb enough moisture in the first week where they're going to clog your auto feeder. So the second week you're on vacation, your fish aren't going to be getting any food. So just make sure that you are preparing before you go away, as so you can try and minimize the chance of your auto feeder clogging. Auto feeders can be problematic though when you're trying to attach them to your aquarium, especially if you have a fitted hood. So again, it's something that you need to look at in advance, and so when you're choosing which auto feeder to buy. if you're going away for a few days, say a weekend, or maybe even up to a week's vacation, then you can always take the risk of fasting your fish, which means not feeding them at all. There's going to be particles in the water column that your fish can feed on, and to be perfectly honest, 5 to 7 days with no food, if them fish are healthy and not undernourished, then it's not really going to cause much of a problem as long as your fish are healthy before you go away. So, fasting is an option. It's not a massively advisable option. If you can put an auto feeder on there, then you're better off doing that. But like I say, fasting is an option that's available to you. But the best overall solution really for whilst you're on holiday is to have either a house sitter or a fish sitter, someone that come into your property and that can feed your fish once a day. Now, this is better if they have an understanding of the aquarium ecosystem, but if not, then weeks in advance, then it's worth getting that friend round so you can show them what to do rather than tell them. If you're showing them, you can show them how to do water changes, you can show them how much food. If not, it would probably be better if you can set out in individual bags how much food goes into that aquarium per day, so you know that the temptation to overfeed has been taken out of their hands. It's also good to have them around, so if they can see any diseases that may be occurring on your fish whilst you're away. So it's good practice to maybe have a few little medicines in your cabinet waiting just in case, and also obviously make sure they know how much to dose if you're going to trust your friend to do any dosing or to identify any diseases whilst you're on holiday. It's also good practice to give your house or fish sitter an insight into your filtration system. So it's good to show them how the filter works, just in case the filter does stop working whilst you're on holiday. If that impeller gets blocked, it's just good practice to show them how to clean the impeller if this does occur whilst you're away on holiday. The next thing you need to take into account whilst you're on vacation is the lighting. Now, I run Fluval 3 plant lights on all my aquariums, and I can set the lights to come on through the app at a certain time every day, and they turn off at a certain time every day. If your lights run on an app, it's not a problem, but some people don't have that luxury, and some people will have to turn them on each day manually. So if you are having to turn your lights on manually, it might be worth looking at investing into a smart plug. So it will turn your lights on and off each day at the times that you've set them to do that. Just make sure that if the lights are an electric switch, that they are capable of being turned on and off through a smart plug. If you have live plants in your aquarium, then you do need to have your lights coming on daily. But if your aquarium doesn't have lights, then don't worry about the lighting while you're away on holiday. Have them turned off for the length of your vacation. The only reason that the lights would be on in your aquarium would be so you can see your fish. Your fish aren't really bothered about the lighting, and they will survive quite happily for the 2 weeks if those lights don't come on. So the next thing you need to take into account before you go away is the cleaning and maintenance of your aquarium. Now, I would say don't clean your filter the day before you go away, because if you cause a change in the ecosystem to your aquarium, then you could have an ammonia spike while you're away and you're not really going to know about it. So in a rainbow fish aquarium, you should be running a canister filter anyway. So clean it a week before you go away on holiday, so you can keep an eye on it and you know that the filter is stable when you go away. Same rule applies for when you're doing a water change. Do your usual water change 2 to 3 days before you go away, just in case that water change does have an effect on the ecosystem, just so you can monitor it before you go away. And then for the 2 weeks while you're away, if your ecosystem's great, then your tank should be fine without a water change for a couple of weeks. It's not just the ecosystem that you have to really worry about when you're doing water changes or filter cleans. You also need to just make sure you don't break anything, don't you? Because if you do a water change or a filter clean the night before you go on holiday and you break something, then you're going to be 2 weeks without your filter running. So, you know, it's good practice just to do these things a few days in front before you go away, just to make sure everything's safe. If your rainbow fish aquarium is fully planted, then what do you do about feeding your live plants whilst you're away on holiday? Now, you can again buy auto feeders which will distribute the fertilizer into your aquarium daily, but to be honest, if you're going away for 2 weeks, the fish poop and the nitrogen cycle will produce food in which your live plants can feed on. What I'd say here is, if you're not going to be fertilising your plants whilst you're away, then 2 weeks before you go on a holiday, just put some root tabs into the substrate and your live plants should be fine whilst you're on your vacation. So then the inevitable happens. You've had 2 weeks, lay on a sunbed with plenty of beers, and it's time to come home. So when you return, your first instinct will be to feed your fish. No, try not to feed your fish straight away when you come home. The best practice would be, first off, do some water tests. Make sure that there are no ammonia spikes, no nitrite spikes. Then, once you've checked your water parameters, then have a look round and check for any uneaten food, any holiday block that could be left in the aquarium. Check for the cave systems to make sure there's no food in there that's rotting away. This can have a knock-on effect, obviously, to your water quality. The next thing you can do then is your water change. I wouldn't do any bigger water change than what you'd normally do. You know, with a rainbow fish aquarium, you kind of be looking at 40 to 50% anyway. Don't do any bigger, just do the standard water change that you do, and everything there should be fine. Whilst doing your water change, it's also then good practice just to give your filter sponges a squeeze out in the water that you've taken out of the aquarium. I know you only did your filter sponges a couple of weeks before, but you don't really know what's gone on behind the scenes while you've been on holiday, so it's good just to give those filter sponges a quick squeeze out. Once you've completed your water change, give it a few hours, and then you'll be quite fine then to feed your fish, and then just give them a good watching over to make sure that they are all still feeding. And there we go. Your holiday has been a success. You've come back nicely relaxed and you're ready to go back to work Monday. So now you're back off holiday and your bank account is screaming to have an influx of money put into there. If you want to know how you can make some good money back from certain live aquarium plants, then watch this video next.